Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining in. I hope I'm audible to everyone, and I hope you can see my screen. So today's webinar, we are going to be focusing on prefabs, right? And before we begin, I'd just like to have a quick round of introduction. I'm Aditya. I handle pre-sales at Wavemaker. We will also be having my colleagues, Nikhilesh and Priyanka, who will be walking you through and giving you an interesting session with a platform overview as well, and covering prefabs. Right. So Wavemaker is a Java-based low-code application development platform, and it's purpose-built for developers. We are completely built on an open standards tech stack, as you know, and we follow the true essence of low-code, which includes drag and drop, and what you see is what you get kind of approach. The primary purpose of Wavemaker as a low-code development platform is to act as an extension to existing developer skill sets. Right. So let's not delay any longer. I'll move on to the agenda for today. Right. So we're going to have a product overview and feature highlight of all the Wavemaker platform, and we will also be going into a slightly deep dive session where we'll be looking at the power of reusable components or prefabs with Wavemaker, right? And this will be followed with a Q&A. So Priyanka, over to you. You can have a quick introduction and begin. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Hello everyone, I'm Priyanka. So let me share my screen. Okay. So in this webinar, we'll go through the key features offered by the Wavemaker platform. As already said, Wavemaker is a low-code application development platform. You can access online version of Wavemaker using this URL in any browser of your choice. I have already logged in on the online version of the product. Once logged in, you will be taken to the dashboard. So this is the dashboard where you can create projects. And once you start creating projects, they will be listed here. With the key features that platform provides, we can build any modern application. Now we will try to build a few scenarios using those key features. I have already created an application, so let me open that application. So this is the application built for a company which sells its insurance policies for customers. This application has security configured and works on two roles. One is sales manager and another is the sales representative. Once the application gets loaded, the platform provides you a studio working environment. So this is the studio working environment. The center part is called the canvas, where you can drag and drop widgets and design your pages. As you can see, Wavemaker provides a vast number of UI widgets. Each widget has its own set of properties. For example, if I select a label widget, properties contextual to that widget are listed here in the properties panel. Similarly, if I select another widget like chats, properties contextual to the chat widget are listed here. We have advanced settings for data widgets like chats, table, etc., where you can configure advanced level settings on the widget. So each widget has an event lifecycle, and also you can configure styles for widgets here from this tab. Now let's see the services provided by the platform, like databases. So you can create your own database from this link. If you have any external database, you can import them from this dialog. As you can see, platform supports all type of relational databases like Postgres, Oracle, SQL Server, etc. So once you import the database, platform detects the metadata and represents the data in the ER diagram format by detecting all the constraints and relations configured on the entities. If you want your imported database to be in sync with your external database, then you can import the database in editable mode and perform operations here in the database designer. If you have any procedures available in the database, you can execute them here in the procedure tab. Also, you can write customized queries and execute them here in the query tab. As this application works on a database, so I have already imported a database which is called Sales Vision. Platform also supports importing of web services. So if you have any service like REST, SOAP or WebSocket, you can import them from this dialog. So if you want to write any custom business logic, you can do it by creating a Java service from this dialog, and you can add your business logic to the service. So now let's see another key feature Waymaker provides, which is the imported APIs. Instead of importing endpoints one by one, if you have an open API spec doc for the endpoints, you can import them in a single shot from this dialog as an URL by providing the open API spec with a URL or even as a file. You can import it. And now we'll see how the APIs are generated for the services in application. So these are the services available in my application. So platform generates APIs by following the standard Swagger spec. For example, as I have a database in this application, platform has generated APIs for each entity present in my database. So these are the entities and these are the APIs generated by the platform. Apart from the CRUD endpoints, platform exclusively provides APIs like filter, export, etc. If you want to export real-time data to Excel or CSV, you can achieve it by using this API. Let's see how to test the APIs here in the API designer to view the response. So here is the test button available, and once you test the API, you can see the response of the API here in the response editor. So these are the APIs that the application works with. So this is all about services. Now let's try to build a few scenarios. Our first scenario is, let's build a use case to view year-wise sales trends of insurance policies in this chat widget. For this, we need to provide a data set for the chat widget. Now let's create a variable for this. Variable acts as a glue between services and UI widgets. Now I'll create a variable for a database entity called sales. Sales, I'll rename the variable and done. Now I'll bind this variable dataset to the chat widget. As you can see, once the dataset is provided, platform detects the variable metadata and populates the data here in the properties panel for further configurations. Now I'll configure a few properties on the chats like group by and aggregation column. So as you can see, once we have bound the data set, that data is rendered in the chat in the studio. So on x-axis, we have a format like YYYMMDD format, but I want to show only the month name on the x-axis. So let's see how those configurations can be made. So we can make those configurations using these advanced settings dialog. So here under the x-axis, I'll apply the format. So these are the formats provided by the platform. So I'll select month name format and save. So as you can see, the x-axis is represented with month names. Now let's preview the application and view the data. As this application has security, I'll log in with the manager credentials. As you can see, yearly sales trend are shown here in the chat widget, and also the format that we have applied is reflected here on the x-axis. Now we'll build another scenario. Let me show you the use case. So now we'll build another use case to view upcoming policy renewals of customers for provided range of sales. So to achieve that, I'll use a data table widget. So we'll drop the widget on the canvas. As you can see, once I drop the widget onto the canvas, platform provides a different sources like services, widgets, existing variables. As we already have a live filter here in my page. So to view the filter data, I will bind the live filter result. So I have selected and in next. So if the selected data source supports CRUD endpoints, then platform allows you to use editable templates like form as dialog, form below, inline edit, quick edit. with which you can perform CRUD operations. For this scenario, I'll be using a read-only database with simple view template. So these are the different types of paginations provided by platform. I'll select the basic pagination here. In this step, you can configure columns that you want to show in the data table. Here, not just the columns of the selected entity, but all the columns of the related entities are shown. Now I'll select few columns like sales, product names. So if you want to make any advanced configurations on the data table, you can do it from this advanced settings dialog. I want to show one more column in my data table. So now we'll do it here from the columns tab. So I want to show customer name as well in my data table. Now I'll rename the column as well. And one more configuration here in the sales column, the data coming from the database is of number type, but I want to show it as a currency format. So these are the format options available. So I'll apply currency format, and also I'll select the currency symbol and save. As you can see, the formatted data is reflected here in the sales column. Now let's preview the application and see the data. So once I start selecting the sales values, the data in the data table is getting updated with these values. So this is how we achieved the filtered data of the upcoming policy renewals. So with this example, we can see how easy the interaction is between the Waymaker widgets. So now we'll go to another scenario. So I'll show you the use case. So our next use case is I want to show the selected employees location. So these are the list of employees available and I want to show the selected employees location. So to achieve this, now I'll use a prefab. And prefab is another exclusive feature provided by Waymaker. If you need any custom widget, you can achieve it through prefab. For example, if you want to create a custom widget using any third-party libraries like Angular, React, etc., you can build it as a prefab and use it in your applications. Platform by default provides a set of prefabs like Google Maps, YouTube, etc. For this use case, I will use Google Maps prefab to show the selected employees' location. As you can see, these are the properties for this prefab which are exposed by the prefab developer. Now I'll work with locations and few of the properties of this prefab. As we want to show the selected employees location, we'll bind the data set. And this is the bind dialog where you can configure properties with different data sources. For our scenario, I'll use the list widget selected item. So this is the list widget that has all the employees, and this is the selected item of that list. Now I'll configure few more properties on this prefab. So I have done with all configurations. As Google Maps prefab needs an API key, let me provide the API key as well. Now let's preview the application and see the scenario. Okay, let me log in again. So as we already have a selected employee here, that employee's location is shown here in the prefab. Once I select another employee, then the prefab gets updated with the selected employee's location. You can see, right, the prefab is getting updated with the location. So these are the scenarios that we have tried out so far. And here we'll talk about few more features offered by the Waymaker. So once you preview your application, platform provides different device types to view the responsiveness of the app. You can use this QR code and scan in your mobile device and test your application in mobile device. So this is the web view of the application. Now let's see how the view changes responsively in the mobile. So I'm selecting a mobile. As you can see, the left nav view is changed completely in the mobile view, and also widgets are aligned in a different way in the mobile view. So this shows how responsive the Waymaker applications are. Also, if you see in mobile view, the employees list is not shown here, whereas in other views, we were able to see the employees list. So how did we achieve this? So for each widget, platform provides device-based show or hide configuration, which can be done here from this show in device section. Here are the different types of devices available for the configurations. So this is all about our use cases. Now let's continue with other features in Waymaker. Now let's see how the code is generated. You can view it from the Files Explorer. Waymaker applications are standard Maven compliant projects. We will now see how class files are generated for the services. For example, this is the database. This is the database that I have in my application. Let's see the files for it. As you can see, these are the Pojo classes generated for each entity available in my database. Also, DAO class files are generated for all the entities, as you can see here. On top of that, we have controller classes as well. So these files are also generated for each entity as well. So this is how files are generated in Waymaker application. Now let's see how we can secure applications in Waymaker. Security is one of the key features that platform supports. You can configure your security here from this dialog. By default, Waymaker applications are protected from XSS attacks. Platform also allows you to configure X-frame, CORS, etc. options. Here from this authentication and authorization tab, you can enable authentication for your application. So once you enable it, platform provides different types of security providers like database, LDAP, AD, SAML, etc. You can secure your application by configuring any of these providers. Apart from this, platform also provides role-based access configurations. Let's see for pages. So for each page, you can configure any role from this section. So apart from this, we also have role-based authentication for services. So even for services, you can configure role-based even for the entire service itself, or for the each entity available in that service, or even for the each endpoint available in that entity. Apart from this, platform also provides role-based access configuration for widgets also. So once you select the widget, you can configure it here from the security tab. So these are the roles available and you can configure it here. Your choice of role. So even for data widgets like data table, you can configure access role. Now let's see how to configure it. So this is the advanced settings of the data table. And for each column, you can configure access role as well here from the security tab. And even for the actions as well, you can configure role-based configuration here from the security. So this is all about security provided by the Waymaker. Now let's move on to next topic. If you want to internationalize your application, you can do it from this I18N dialog. You can manage languages and also customize messages here. As Waymaker application is a standard Maven compliant project, we can have separate profiles for each environment. Normally for an app release cycle, there will be multiple environments like dev, staging, QA, etc. before it is actually deployed to production. So this is where you can create profiles for each environment and configure services for that profile as well. As you can see, these are the different types of services you can configure. Another key feature platform provides is deployment. You can deploy your application in a single click. As I have already deployed this application, let's see how we can manage this deployed app. So this is called the deployed apps portal. So this is a demo pipeline of your application. Once your application is ready to go to live, these are the providers supported by platform like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and DigitalOcean Kubernetes, which will help you in making your app go live. All you need to do is configure any of these providers and push your changes to the live pipeline. So simple, right? So this is how the deployment works in Wavemaker. Now let's see few more key features. Platform allows you to export project as zip. Even you can export your project as WAR with any profile of your choice and deploy that WAR file in any runtime servers like Tomcat, JBoss, WebSphere, etc. So now let's see how we can work with collaborator projects in Wavemaker. You can add your teammates to the project from this user management option. Once added, if you want to get changes made by your teammates, you can do it by using the pull changes options. Similarly, if you want your changes to be available to other teammates, you can do it using the push changes options. Platform also allows you to push your project to external repos like GitHub, Bitbucket, etc. And also here from this VCS dropdown, you can view your changes from this view changes dialog and history of commit history as well. So I hope you all got a decent understanding of the features provided by Waymaker. Now to dive deep into prefabs, I will hand it over to Niklesh. So Niklesh will continue the demo.
Yeah, thanks Priyanka. So hey guys, I am Nikhilesh. So before getting into prefabs, let me start with a quick introduction of myself. So I have been associated with Wavemaker for the past 5 years. And earlier I used to build apps using Wavemaker, which means apps on Wavemaker. And for the last 2 years, I've been working with the engineering team to build features onto the Wavemaker product. So yeah, that's about me. And now let's take a deep dive into prefabs now that you have a fair understanding of the product and how Wavemaker works. So yeah, so the key takeaways from this session will be, you'll be learning what are prefabs, the different kinds of prefabs you can build, how to use an existing prefab, and how to build a prefab. So let's start with what is a prefab then. So prefab is a reusable and a distributable component of an application which can be developed and tested independently. So say you see these blocks, right? Lego blocks. So each block is say a prefab, and you can plug and play them and club them together to build out your application and even reuse them across multiple applications. And your prefabs are not just static, they can have APIs integrated with them. So you can import REST services, SOAP services, and WebSockets inside your prefabs and consume them. And consuming a prefab by your application is as easy as a simple drag and drop from onto the canvas, like Priyanka showed you earlier. Now let's look at the prefab architecture. So prefab architecture looks like this. It consists of a UI, which has widgets and interaction. It has a set of APIs, which help us in communication in two-way communication with the application. So our prefab can pass data to the application, and application can also pass in some input data to the prefab by using these properties, events, and methods. We'll be looking at them in detail later. And our prefab can have its own configuration and assets. Say we need some third-party libraries or some CSS files, icons, metadata. All that can be imported into your prefab. And like I said earlier, a prefab can be developed and tested independently. So it has its own prefab runtime where you can run all your test cases and see if your prefab is working as expected. And only then you can go ahead and consume it in your application. Now let's see what all a prefab can be. So prefab can be a simple third-party UI element without any APIs integrated. So this is an example of a Corona tracker app, which we built on Wavemaker. And this uses a D3 third-party library, which provides a lot of charts. So we are using the data map library, data map chart here. So if you see this India map, this is nothing but a D3 data map. And our prefab gets the entire data as input and just populates it on the chart. That's it. Doesn't have any REST API calls. So this is a simple prefab. Another prefab use case could be a third-party UI element with both UI and APIs. So our example is a Google Maps prefab. So our Google Maps prefab, we pass an API key to the prefab, and we pass our locations which we want to populate on the prefab. And then the prefab will take care of rendering it. It will call different Google APIs, pass in the API key, and do all those manipulations and populate these markers on the UI. And one more example where this prefab uses both the UI and the API is, this is a box viewer prefab, which uses Box third-party API, which enables preview of different file formats like images, videos, 3D models, etc. So this has been built out as a prefab. And say you are in your loan processing application where you upload your W2 file, and then you're using your box viewer prefab, you can view the content of that document. And similarly, we also have a DocuSign prefab, which has a UI and a DocuSign API integrated, which is a third-party API, which allows us to do e-signatures. So when we click on signature here, and we can add this signature here. And yeah, this also has been built as a WaveMaker prefab. Now, our prefab can also be a combination of existing WaveMaker widgets. So say in this use case, we have an audition form where certain things are specific to an audition, say the date, play title, candidate name, and email. And we have an address, which could be common with another form, say athlete creation form, where you have certain specific information as well as the address information. So this address section can be built out as a prefab and reused across both use cases. So this subform is a combination of existing WaveMaker widgets like text boxes and select boxes, and you can reuse it in multiple use cases where you need your address form. And our prefab can also be without any UI. It can just contain a certain business logic. So in this example, what we are doing is we have an entity extractor prefab, which as an input takes a document, and using Amazon Textract services, it parses that document and sends out all the contents of that document. And the consuming application can use that to build out a form. So if you see in this use case, this is our consumer application where I have a form, and the data inside this form is coming in from a prefab, which is our entity extractor prefab, which doesn't have a UI of its own. And then our prefabs can also be domain specific. Say you are a banking solution provider and you want to build out different scenarios and use them across different banking applications. So you can create your search consumers, your fund transfer, and your consumer details, all these use cases as prefabs, and reuse them across your multiple banking applications with minor changes. Now let's see how to use a prefab. So like I said earlier, it's as easy as dragging and dropping onto the canvas. So from the prefab section, you choose which prefab you need, drag it and drop it onto the canvas, and then configure properties exposed by the prefab, and that's it, you're good to go. You can preview your prefab in runtime. Okay, now let's see how do we build a prefab. So on our WaveMaker dashboard, projects dashboard, we have a prefab section where on clicking create, you can create a prefab project. So this is how a prefab project is opened up. And we have something called as a prefab configuration dialog, where we have all these tabs. The resources tab is for, say you have third-party libraries which you want your prefab to use. So you'll configure them here. And say you want to create a few properties to make your prefab dynamic. You will create those properties from the second tab, and events and methods as well for communication with the application. Packaging is where, say you want your display name of the prefab to be different from the prefab name, and you want to add an icon as well. You can do that here. And app environment is where, say you want to create environment variables. Yes, server side properties kind of. we'll be looking at this later. And then our prefab project has a canvas of its own. So you can drag and drop widgets onto the canvas. And if you need to customize some script, you can go to the script tab and add your script. And then you can test out your prefab like this. Even before consuming it in your application, you can test your prefab. And if you see, all the properties are exposed on the right-hand side here. So you can change them on the fly and see how your prefab reacts to it. So you can run all your test cases here before even making sure that your prefab is ready to be consumed. And once you are satisfied with your prefab, you can publish it to your project. So there are two ways in which you can do this. You can either publish it to a single project or publish it to your workspace. So what publish to project means is, say you are working on your prefab incrementally and you are doing 4 or 5 changes per day. So it becomes a hassle to publish it to workspace and then import it again and again. So you can just say publish to a particular project and just go to that project and refresh. That's it. Your latest prefab changes will reflect there. And then when your prefab reaches a certain stage of maturity, you can publish it to your workspace where it will be available for all your projects. And if you are an enterprise WaveMaker customer, you can, on publishing it to workspace, it will be available to all users inside your enterprise. And then after publishing it to a project, you go to that project, you go to prefab section. That prefab will be visible here. You just drag and drop it, configure your properties, and you're good to go. So now we have seen a lot of theory here, but let's actually build a prefab use case now and see how it makes life easier. So what we are trying to build here is, I have a consumer list table, which lists out all my consumers, and I have their age. Now what I want to do is, I want to have a range slider, and I want to show the consumers which lie within a particular range. So say the slider currently shows 20 to 40. So I want to see only the consumers which lie in this range. So let's try to build out this use case. And for this, we'll be using a third-party library, which is a NoUI slider, which is a JavaScript library. And we'll also need 4 properties here, which are min range, which is where the slider starts. Max range is where the slider ends. Start value, which is the default start value. Say it starts at 20 and it ends at 80. So this is the end value. So we'll be creating these 4 properties for our prefab. All right, let's start building this then. So I'll go to wavemakeronline.com and I'll go to the prefab section and I'll say my prefab is called range slider. Okay, now coming back here, we see that it needs certain dependencies. So we see that our NoUI slider library needs a CSS file and a JS file. So let's import these into our application. So we'll go to File Explorer, we'll say plus here, go to resources, and I already have them downloaded on my machine. So I'll just select them and say open. And we see that they have been imported successfully. And now that we have imported them, let's look at the config prefab dialog. So this is the resources tab where we need to specify that, okay, we need external dependencies. So our CSS needs this NoUI slider.css and our script needs a NoUI slider.js file. Done. Now let's go to the properties tab and create those 4 properties we talked about. So I'll say add. So if you see there are a lot of properties here. So name, which is what I want my property to be named, which is the first one is min range, which is min limit for slider. And our data type is a number, and you can choose other data types also as per your use case, but ours is a number, and it's not a list of values. It's a single value, so I won't enable this. And I want to start it at 0. So our default value will be 0. Now let's see what is a binding type. So we have 3 different binding types: inbound, outbound, and in-outbound. What inbound means is prefab will receive this as an input from the consuming application. What outbound means is prefab will emit this property to the consuming application. And what in-outbound means, it can be both. Prefab can also get this as an input and prefab can pass it as an output as well. So our min range will be an inbound. And this will be more clear when I create all the properties. So don't worry about this. And okay, let's create the other properties now. Max range, which is the max limit for slider, which is also a number. And let's default this to 100. And then go to start is another, start, which is the default start value, which is also a number. And let's start this at 20. And then an end value, which is the default end value. And we'll say this is 80. Oh, sorry, this should be a number. Okay, so now our start and end values should actually be in outbound properties, because my consuming application needs to know that the values in the slider have been changed, and accordingly it needs to update its table, right? So this will be in outbound, and end will also be in outbound. And let's go to events tab now. So prefab lifecycle works in this way that whenever a prefab is loaded, our onload callback gets called, and whenever it is destroyed, our onDestroy callback gets called. And we can also create more custom events. Like let's say we'll create an onChange event, which will get called when slider value changes. And then we have the methods tab, where say you want to call a method in your prefab when something changes in your consuming application. So that's where you can create a method. And packaging is, like I said earlier, you want your display name to be different from your prefab name. You can do that. And if you want to add a custom icon, you can do that as well. And app environment is if you want any server-side properties, which we don't need as of now. So I'll go ahead and save this. Okay, so our properties are ready. Now, what else does our slider need? It needs a UI element on top of which the slider will render. So for that, let's drag and drop a container and call it slider. And now we need a certain script to initialize our slider and make it work. So I'll copy the script, come here, and in our prefab.onReady event, which gets called when the prefab is ready. So this should be get elements by name of 0. And now when we preview this, we see that our slider is rendered. And we also see our properties on the right with the default values. Okay, now, but it's still not dynamic. We have hard-coded these values here. So before we make this dynamic, let me show you what this onProperty change means. So as it mentions here, this function will be invoked when any of the prefab's property is changed. So now we have 4 properties in our prefab. So if any of the property changes at runtime, our onProperty change handler will be called, and newval will give us the updated value of that property. So in the interest of time, I already have some script to handle these dynamic things. So I'll just copy this and paste it here. So it does nothing but creates a slider on the prefab variable, and our property change handler, what it does is it just updates the slider with the latest values with the current new val. And now when we preview this, and if I want my min range to be 10 now, and I want my slider to finish at 80, you see how the values on the left are changing as soon as I change values here. So this is how easily you can run all your test cases and see if it works or not. And here is where we can see our outbound properties. So this is where outbound properties come in. Say now I change the slider from 25 to 40. And when I refresh this, you see that they got updated here. So yeah, looks like our prefab is ready to be consumed. Now let us publish this then. So I'll publish this to a project which I already have ready called Slider app. And I have this project open here. So I have to go to the prefab section and just refresh. And you see that our range slider is available here. So here I have a consumer list, which is a data table bound to a dbcrud variable. So our dbcrud variable gets all the consumers from the consumer table. Now what we want to do is we want to get in our slider, and you see that it already starts showing up, and we see our properties here. Now the users of my application lie between the range from 15 to 65. So I can change my min range and max range. And initially I want them to show me the consumers who lie between 20 to 30. So I changed that as well. And now I'll go to my variable, and this variable needs to know that, okay, the age should lie between, and we need a binding here. We'll go to widgets. So you see our range slider one is visible. And how did this start and end come here? Since we exposed them as in outbound properties, they are available in our application to be consumed. And that is why we don't see the other two properties, because they were inbound properties. So I'll say start, and the other should be end. So our age should lie between the start and end, and I'll say save. And now let's preview this. Now if you see, our consumer list rendered initially with the range as 20 to 30. And when I change this, you see that the table below is getting updated. So yeah, our slider works. And I also have built out another use case, which is the same prefab, which is used in a product listing page, where I have a list of my mobile phones, which lie in the range of this price. So when I change this over here, you see that the cards get updated here. So this is how our same prefab was used in two different use cases. Yeah. So, okay, we have one more thing. Since we created another event, let's see, where do we see that? So in this prefab, if we go to the events tab, we see that there's an onload, on destroy, and on change, because I had created this in the prefab events. Now here I can say JavaScript, and inside my prefab, if you see, I'm calling this here prefab.onChange and passing the start and end value. So say you want to do some validations in your application, saying that, okay, when it's between 20 to 80, don't trigger the API call, or any kind of validations which you need, you can do it here. And since we are not passing all these values, we'll change this and say start val and end val. And you can do your custom logic here and call the variable accordingly. So yeah, I hope that you got a better understanding of prefabs now, and you'll be able to build out your own prefabs and realize the power of it, which is provided by WaveMaker. Yeah, Aditya, that's it from my side. Over to you.
Thanks, Nikhilesh. So we can take some Q&A right now from the audience. So please post your questions, and we take them individually. So I have a question here. I think either Nikhilesh, you can take this. So how is the widget content refreshed after changing values? Is one question that I see.
Okay, so inside the prefab, there was a on property change handler, right? So as soon as a property changes inside the prefab, this on property change handler is called. And inside that, we were updating the slider with the latest values. So that is how it was reflecting it on the fly.
I think how the data in the table got changed, Nikhilesh, as in when you updated the prefab, in the application, when you updated the slider, right, in the application runtime, the
Okay.
data was getting, so maybe you can share your screen and quickly show you how you back the data, right?
Sure, sure.
Data binding that you showed.
Yeah,
My
I'll just
sharing
stop.
is,
I'll
yeah,
just stop sharing.
okay. Let me share
Nikhilesh,
my
you should have
screen.
it.
So, okay, how that works is we have something called as an update data on input change on our variables. What this flag does is if inside our input parameters, if anything changes, it re-triggers the variable. So we are checking if these properties change. And as soon as they change, the variable will be re-triggered. And that is how the table is getting refreshed. I hope that answers your question.
Right.
Yeah, there is another question which was asked a little earlier, but I think we can cover it for the rest of the audience. Can you upload an Excel file into the database, basically?
Yeah, so the same thing can be done through basically Java services. So just like Nikhilesh showed, also there is another way of doing this. Just like Nikhilesh showed you, there is prefabs, which is more or less a front end component, right, for usable for your application. The same thing applies to backend. For the backend equivalent for that would be connectors. So in the answers, I've connected a list of connectors. I have shared the link for a list of connectors where you can design your own Java connectors, which do all the heavy lifting. For example, parsing a Excel file and giving you the data, and then you can take the data and make insert the data into your database tables. So I've shared in the list. You can go through the list, and you also, just like prefabs, you can build your own custom connectors.
There's another question that is talking about Angular elements. So is it possible to integrate existing Angular elements as widgets or only Angular JS?
Yeah, so application runtime right now is based on Angular. So yes, it is possible to take any third-party component like Angular JS or Angular into wrap it around wrap it inside a prefab. So the way of getting Angular elements is to basically Angular. So Angular has Angular elements like ng elements. So that works like a web component. So you can take that in, just like Nikhilesh showed you how you could take the JavaScript and upload it there. Similarly, you can upload the JavaScript, the distributable JavaScript that you get when you build an Angular element. Take it into your prefab, wrap it inside the prefab, define the properties, map it to your Angular element, and use it inside Vmaker applications. Similarly, the same applies to any other framework like React as well. So we have documents for that. Yes, reactive validation forms. By default, the forms have reactive validations in them, supported. There was a demo that was done last month for forms specifically, actually, where we covered all the validations and custom validations, server-side validations in the form. I think that could be helpful as well for you, Manuel.
I think there's another question on runtime, which is specific to what can you build a lot of applications? Would we use a single runtime or it would be a separate runtime per application?
Okay, this is an interesting question. So yeah, so as during the first demo, Priyanka showed you, right, that basically you can have database imported in one application and that generates the APIs, right? So Waymaker actually follows this microservices architecture where you can say, for example, have APIs generated in one application and then use those APIs in other applications without the need for those APIs to be there in the other application. So you can import database, for example, or create Java services in one application that could act as your service provider, for example, and you can build small other applications using those APIs generated from the first application as your source of APIs.
Yeah, we have a couple of more minutes, so if there are more questions, I'd urge the participants to please use the Q&A and add them there. In the meantime, we'd like to visit another question that was asked earlier, which is around what other services can be bound to specific filters or let's say range sliders, right? Are we looking at only databases here, or do you have the ability to use other services too?
Okay, so no, as long as you have imported that web service as so we have different services which we can import: REST, SOAP, WebSocket. So if it's available as a REST service, you can go ahead, import it, and pass pass the slider values and the input properties. So it's not just specific to database.
Yeah, so we can just sum it up as the front end and the back end services are, totally decoupled. Basically, the APIs is what the widgets operate on. So these APIs could be APIs generated from the databases, or these could be your own third-party services or APIs or SOAP services, REST services, or APIs that you have imported from your third-party, services, which was there in as an open API spec. So yeah, so any API can be backed. So widgets can be backed by APIs basically, which provide data. It doesn't matter whether it's database or your own API.
Yeah, thanks, Vibhu and Nikhilesh. I don't see any more questions at the moment. So I just want to also inform all the attendees that I have seen a couple of queries regarding the recording. So just want to inform all of you that I know your teammates would not have been able to join this due to other commitments. So we will be sharing the recording with all the registrants. So you should be good there, and you can review the session later at your convenience. Right. So I would like to thank everybody for tuning into this webinar. We hope it was useful. And we will be having more such webinars in the future. Right. So do look out for the space as we go along, and we'll try and keep more interesting topics that we can cover using the Wavemaker platform. Thank you all for your time, and until next time, bye-bye.